So, what's trending as we enter match number 25 and beyond of the IPL? We've had a good 2-3 weeks to just see what's different about this year's tournament. Sanjay Manjrekar is different on this particular episode of Trends. Ian Bishop is here too. Of course, GS and me remain one trend that stay constant regardless of conditions. We'd love to talk about death bowling first up, GS. What are the numbers telling us?
So it's early days yet, but the average run rate is about 11.6. So that's quite a lot, considering that people plan for death bowling, people have recruit death bowling specialists, but still not many bowlers have really found to basically bowl that phase very well. Even the likes of Nataraj and Harshal have all gone in excess of about 9.5, 10 runs and over, and a lot of good bowlers have gone at 13, 14 also. Take, for example, a Mohammad Siraj. He has been recruited by RCB, retained, and hope that he would deliver those really good wide Yorkers. But maybe it's just not clicking, or is it the pitches or due? Tough to say. I leave that to the experts. But yeah, the numbers say that death bowling is super hard this time than any other season so far.
Okay, let's go to Sanjay Manjrekar then and try and see whether we should read numbers differently this year. Sanjay.
Yes, because Mumbai City, as we know, we come from Mumbai, takes great care of its infrastructure, and the pitches also come under infrastructure of Mumbai cricket, and the pitches have been brilliant. It's got pace, it's got bounce, so I can feel for some of the bowlers, when the ball is coming out of the bat, the slow balls are not gripping as much into the pitches. There's no bounce for people like Sandeep Sharma and all those guys to exploit. So it's been tough for the death bowlers, and we'll get into the quality of death bowlers as well that all teams have.
Bish, as a fast bowler, you know what to expect when you come to Mumbai. There's all this talk of training with the wet ball and whatnot. Should we be sympathetic to bowlers, or even by the standards set by these Mumbai surfaces, has death bowling not been at its best?
I think it'll be a mix of both things. We're playing at four grounds here so far, right? And they're not the world's biggest grounds, although there's a bias to one side occasionally at CCI, etc. The due as well, and that's a lot of the reason why teams are choosing to chase one in T20 cricket. They prefer to know what they have to go to, and then there's due coming in. So I think the size of the grounds are playing a big impact. And you've got some new guys, but I just think that it's very difficult bowling on some of these grounds. In fact, I was saying to one bowler the other night, we had a conversation, and he was saying that he's going for over 30 every game. And I said, well, given the size of the grounds, you have to sort of broaden your expectations because of the small size of these four grounds to maybe go from 30 to 35 as being acceptable.
Okay, looking at the numbers, Sunil Narayan sits on top now. 4 overs is all he's bowled at the death. How about turning the tables a little bit? Telling Sunil Narayan, Rashid Khan, telling the spinners who are supposed to control the middle, bowl at the death. What's the harm? Sanjay.
I've been pushing for that, and there is great cause for KKR to have Sunil Narayan bowl at least the 18th, if not the 19th and 20th. And if the need is there, bowl the 19th as well. A lot of guys, when they come into the death overs, the big hitters, if they have somebody like Sunil Narayan versus an Umesh Yadav, they would obviously find Sunil Narayan a bit more difficult to, put away. Pat Cummins, Umesh Yadav have not been great death bowlers. That's where I want the spinners also to take some responsibility. Rashid Khan could come to the rescue of maybe a Hardik Pandya who had to bowl the 18th over in the last game. Those kind of things have to happen. They can't be bowling in their comfort zone and boasting of a great economy rate while the team is suffering and getting to, the opposition getting to 190, 200. So it's a tactic I wish somebody would try, especially with people like, Sunil Narayan and Rashid Khan, who are perfectly capable of bowling a tight 18th or 19th over.
Why don't we take KKR as a stark example, Bish? That franchise in particular, everybody seems to want to bowl out quickly. Umesh Yadav's numbers say bowl him out before the 13th. Pat Cummins says bowl him 3 in the power play if you can. You're left with very little options at the death. Andre Russell's bowling workload has to be managed. How about Narayan being told you're going to be bowling 15, 17, 19, or at least 17 and 19?
There's nothing wrong with that at all. And Narayan, on occasions, would be one of the guys who has done it in the past, who you should probably do it more often with. Now, I'm not for any type of spinner being put into the death, because we saw last night with Suchit, I think it was an Andre Russell, that he got hit for 3 sixes or 2 sixes and a 4 or something, and couple of singles, although he got a wicket in the last over. So it's a particular type of bowler, the Rashid Khans, that the numbers, and Gaurav can tell us more, the numbers have indicated for years now these guys should be given as additional options at the end.
Quick point also, I think Sunil Narayan, if you find, maybe GS can help us later sometime, in the show. With the remodeled action, he hasn't bowled as much
Yes, of
closer
course.
to death as opposed to the original Sunil Narayan that we
Yeah,
had.
but this is an Narayan who's gotten more comfortable with this action. There's good reason why he wasn't used at the death. You wanted him to be comfortable as he just finds his way back into T20 cricket. GS, Rashid Khan's another one. Don't quite see him bowl at the death. Does that really turn the matchup table upside down if we consider this sort of thing?
Looks like Rashid Khan's not comfortable to bowl in the power play as well. So he's a bit rigid in terms of the way he wants to operate. Yeah, I think those are the improvements for the particular bowler. You got to bowl in tough situations, and even if there's dew, I think that kind of differentiates you from being an all-time great from just being a great. So I think they have to go outside their comfort zone. So likes of Rashid, even Varun Chakravarti for that matter, Sunil Narayan, Chahal could be another bowler who could be definitely tried in that zone, because they've all been hit for many sixes before and they have come back strongly. So likes of even Kuldeep for that matter, I would like to see them at least try in maybe in a situation where maybe there's not too much of a risk.
This last word on this, Bish. Every team usually gets two guys to bowl at the death, right? You thought Bumrah for Mumbai Indians, yeah, let's get Timal Mills and we're sorted. You got Mohammad Siraj for RCB along with Harshal Patel. Are you noticing generally though that because of how games are going, a lot of these prime bowlers have to bowl three out in the middle stages? Yeah, Josh Butler's batting or Andre Russell has come in. Suddenly the matchups demand that you bring your strike bowler on because the general bowling quality seems to have been diluted with the 10 teams. In some ways, do more bowlers need to be ready to bowl at the death?
Yes, the more options you have, the better, especially in the special scenario that we have where we're restricted to a certain number of venues. You always have to have that up your sleeve. And you make a good point with regards to tactically matching up certain bowlers. In the last game with Sunrisers, for example, we had Umran Malik, just as one example, waiting to bowl at Andrew Russell. We've had Hasaranga waiting to bowl at, let's say, a Kyron Pollard. So these matchups have been there for a while. So the more options you have as a captain and as a team, the better.
Sanjay, anything on that?
I think it's a fair point. It's a good point that you raise. And that's why, the balance of the attack is what is needed. When you have spinners who are not going to get you wickets, then you're forced to bring the fast bowlers in to make something happen in the middle. And that one precious over that you bowl, a fast bowler in the death is taken away. So I guess quality attack, like Gujarat Titans have three quality bowlers that they can go to in the death. There's a Hardik Pandya, Shami, Lockie Ferguson. Teams that have only one or two are struggling. So if the spinners don't get wickets, they're in trouble.
All right. Another trend that we are observing. Let's make this a twofold discussion. We have already come up with household names, new household names, right? Ayush Badoni, Abhinav Manohar, Suyash Prabhu Desai in just one game, Tilak Varma almost consistently, or even the bowlers. You'll find enough names making an impact. Umran Malik is one of those. But on the other hand, retained players. Venkatesh Iyer has struggled. Varun Chakravarti has struggled. Andrik Noke, well, fitness, but Akshar Patel has gone wicketless. Ruturaj Gaikwad has struggled. What are we seeing, Sanjay Manjrekar? A lot of these young Indian players who we thought might reduce the quality of the IPL, they seem to have really impressed us. A lot of the retentions seem to be struggling.
And that's the big story for me. This IPL with 10 teams, I was one of the skeptics who felt that, the quality of the IPL may suffer because you're looking at 70 Indian players. But it seems like it's more the foreign players quota that is being looked at, because a lot of teams are going, when they have an option of playing the foreign player, playing the local player. And I have been just staggered by the talent that we're seeing with fast bowlers and batters as well. Suyash Prabhudesai is a guy that you mentioned. Absolutely brilliant. And it seems like, all these people have their ambitions now set that they want to become T20 great. So when they're playing their first or second game, they're sort of ready to take on the challenges of T20 cricket. There's T20 batsmanship that they have with them. So all that has been very impressive. And again, on pitches that have been easy for guys batting at 6 and 7, they don't need to take too many balls to get in On these pitches, you can actually start from the word go because they're good pitches where the ball are coming onto the bat.
Yeah, we used to have this chat before this year's IPL, Bish, that maybe the tournament should consider 5 overseas so the quality isn't reduced. Now, when we see teams play 2 and 3 overseas, one reaction is, they messed up their auction. They haven't got the right personnel clearly. Now, is that a more fair argument, or is it that just the Indian kids are performing better than even some of the capped internationals?
There are cases where, without calling any names, where I don't think teams have done well enough at the auction. There's one popular team who might look back and reflect quite poorly on their auction strategies. But
Yeah,
I do
but we're not
think
calling
that
names. But well done, Bish. Yeah.
no, I didn't call a name, did I? Close enough to it. Um, but I do think that it has been quite pleasant to observe some of the lesser known lights who've come in. And I say lesser known because some of these guys have been playing first class cricket domestically and list A cricket domestically, but they are not known by the global community, the community outside of India. And so that has been heartwarming to see. Um, the real test will come in year two if these guys continue having a good 2022 Tata IPL. Second year blues is something that you always look at when people start to understand. But the Kuldeep Sens and guys like these, Ice Badoni, as I call him, Ayush Badoni, so far have really impressed. And as I've said before, I can only imagine how many more guys are out there. And I only put this out, RK, for this reason. In the Caribbean, we have a population of English speaking 6 million. And we have what, 5, 6 Caribbean Premier League teams. You've got a 1 billion population here. So I think I've always argued with a friend of mine, there should be a lot more wonderful cricketers with this huge population. And we're starting to find out now that there are hidden gems out there. And if the coaching and scouting networks actually go to work deeper, they will find so many more.
Thank God we don't have a New Zealander on this panel. They really annoy us with the whole population prospect and how they do against India. But going to GS fairly, some of the retentions, you have the high level retentions not doing well. You also have the uncapped ones that have even fallen out of the 11s. Your Yashasvi Jaiswals, Abdul Samad. What is it, GS? Second year syndrome, or just retained players suddenly have played with this different sort of pressure and gone poof?
Yeah, I'm a big believer of the second season syndrome. A lot of players in the past have kind of struggled. So just take KKR for example. They missed out Shubman Gill and they went for Venkatesh Iyer. They backed on Varun Chakravarti to deliver. CSK again, yes, I think Ruturaj Gaikwad still has the kind of potential because he's more, I would say, he was technically sound, is what the most experts say. But still, they have not been able to deliver continuously. Maybe the price tag, maybe the pressure, maybe bowlers have found them out, which is why you need to be consistent for 2 seasons before you make such kind of retention calls. Even the uncapped players we are talking about, we need to wait and see how they deliver consistently. But one point I've kind of observed, I think this is the IPL generation which is coming through. The 19-year-old, 21-year-old, 22-year-olds have kind of grown watching the IPL. They have their favorite franchise. We saw what Deval Brevis said in his house wall. He has a picture of Virat Kohli, AB de Villiers, and Sachin Tendulkar. So I think the generation has been watching the IPL and they want to play here. So maybe they just give their best and they're pretty game ready for that. So whereas the retained players maybe just slightly in their comfort zone and they're like, they just feel that their hard work is done and now maybe they're just relaxing a bit. But this game will kind of find you out very, very soon.
All right, just last thing. Again, we should acknowledge relatively early still, even though we are seeing 3 weeks of IPL cricket. It's a long tournament. But just on tosses, quick comment from Sanjay and Bish as well as GS. Every captain who wins the toss seems to want to bowl, but it's not like every game is going the chasing team's way. We are seeing teams batting first register wins in the last 10 games that we've seen while this is being recorded. We've seen it's split 5-5. Should teams start thinking about that? Batting first? No, what's the resistance?
See, the thing is, in a default setting, when you start the game, if you're going to chase, there's always an advantage unless you've got a pitch that was used the night before, because there's a dew factor that comes in, just the coolness of the evening, coolerness of the evening the ball comes on to the bat better. Then what happens in the dynamics of the game unfolds. If somebody bats first and gets 215 runs on the board, then it becomes tough to chase quality bowling. All those, dynamics come into play. But for a captain, starting off on zero, both teams, there's always an advantage, batting second.
No, Bish, no takers for that. Teams who should say, well, maybe the dew won't come in, or maybe we back ourselves to get more. Everyone seems to just want to chase. Is that going to continue?
Well, let's eliminate maybe. As a captain, you have to make as a short decision as possible. And more often than not, so far in the IPL, you're getting a little bit of due. That Sunrisers game, when Sunrisers chased against KKR the last game, the pitch did so much less than when Sunrisers bowled on it. So I think you'd be stupid as a captain to go into this phase of a tournament and think, I'm going to have a bat first, because you never know how much is enough and whether the dew will come in. Now, that will evolve as the tournament goes on, as the pitches dry and get more use. We may see a trend going the other way, but for now, I can't critique the captains for wanting to chase, even though some of the games of late have gone with the teams batting first.
JS, final word. Will things likely change?
Yeah, definitely it will change. That's how the pattern has been in the past IPLs, especially day games. I expect teams to start batting first. We saw a couple of results going in favor of the batting team in the few day games which has been held. So, yeah, I think that way it will change. But otherwise, the dew seems to be on everybody's mind all the time. So, till the dew is slightly less, I don't think it's going to change.
Okay, more trends as the tournament gets deeper. Big thank you to Ian Bishop, Sanjay Manjrekar, and Gaurav Sundararaman.